All right, everyone, you asked for it. This is your episode. What is house mapping? How do you use it? And why is it so powerful for ADHD? Let's get into it. Welcome to Wired and Worthy, the podcast for people who feel everything deeply, think about everything constantly, and have spent way too long believing that they were too much. I'm Dr. Amelia Kelley, your host, someone who believes the way you're wired was never the problem. You belong here exactly as you are. Because remember, you may be wired differently, but you are worthy always. Let's get into it. So if any of you follow me on social media, you will see that there was a reel recently where I was showing something that I've been doing around my house for years, and also something I've been exploring with clients, which is this idea of intentionally following the way you live when you design your home. So where you put things, why you put things places, matching your daily life and matching how you move around your space instead of trying to make it fit the other way around. You know, I think there is a notion that homes are supposed to look a certain way, our car, our desk, all of this has a certain order, and that anything other than that is chaos. But I'm here to say that that is not true. Okay. So in the video, if you haven't seen it, essentially, I'm showing myself with this pile of laundry, walking down the hallway and just dumping it on the ground. Truth be told, this is not where I actually do that. I actually have a space near my closet that sometimes I was doing that, but you can't really film in a closet. or I could, but that'd be kind of odd. Instead of you trying to shape your home so that it fits this like perfect picture of what we think a space should look like, house mapping follows your natural rhythms as a family and as a person. So the goal is not perfection. Instead, it's reducing the amount of work your brain has to do. So let's look at why this works. Like, why is this so helpful for ADHD and honestly, just like busy families in general? Well, there's a lot of really cool brain research as to why house mapping works. So first and foremost, when we look at the executive functioning load for, working parents or people who are really busy or people with ADHD, anything we can do that reduces cognitive load is winner, is amazing. So with house mapping, you're no longer having to memorize or think about where things go because you're reducing the load about where they belong. So instead of where should I put this or find this? It's where does this live already? So the environment around you starts to kind of match what you're already doing, which is what I was saying before. But when you consider it this way, it's also doing this really cool thing where it uses your context in your memories. Okay, so for example, and I'll give you an example of what I mean. Certain spaces around us elicit certain natural responses. So we hope something like you get in bed, you feel sleepy. You walk into the kitchen, you want a snack. You walk into a library super fast, you'll probably slow down or maybe talk quieter. Like we actually start to do this and we don't even realize it, where we shift our physiology and we shift the way that we operate in a space based on where we are. And this, I think, is probably one of the reasons why people with ADHD, especially, or, I don't know, someone who's like menopausal or just busy, walks into one room and you're like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? It's probably because the context of the room you're moving into doesn't actually match what you were trying to remember. So with house mapping, you are intentionally building an environment that associates with what you're trying to accomplish. So the room you're in actually cues you to do the thing that you want to do. So like, for example, I'll kind of pepper these in. I've got hundreds of really awesome questions that came in on the thread. And so one of the ones that was really common was shoes at entryways. There was this one in particular that I loved that I think is such a good example of this. There was a follower who had said, like, what do you do with shoes? All my family members just kind of fling their shoes by the door and, they're just haphazard. And so I had said, well, if that's where you naturally come in, first and foremost, make sure where you map out the shoe spot is where you naturally come in. So you would think it'd be the front door. In my house, it's the garage door. Like we come in the front door sometimes, but honestly, we usually open our garage and walk in there. So that's where we keep kind of like one of those shoe racks. It's like shelving for your shoes. And so I had said to her, I said, well, we have a shoe rack shelving for our shoes that's there that honestly, with my kids, I'm not looking for perfection. If they even at least just take the shoes off and it's like even in the proximity of the rack, I'm happy. To me, that's good house mapping. So I was like, what do you think about that? The funniest thing was her response was, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. We have one of those, but it's around like kind of behind the door when we're coming in. So they're not seeing it. It's not cueing. They're not getting that context cue. So for her house map was something as simple as picking up the shoe rack and moving it to a different place. So I encourage you to look at your hot spots in your house. And if you might actually be on your way to doing this already, and all you need is just a slight little shift. So the room or the space can really give you cues. I thought that was like a really awesome example. The other thing that I think is so important is how house mapping can reduce executive load. So I don't know how many of you have seen, there's these other kind of viral reels I've seen where it's this very well-intentioned person saying, oh, it kind of kills me actually. The difference between 7 seconds and then 27 seconds, and saying like if you take 27 seconds after you brush your teeth and stuff, you'll have a clean sink. Whereas if you take 7 seconds, it's a mess. Like for example, she's brushing her teeth, she throws the toothbrush down, she leaves her washcloth there and she walks away. That's like, whatever. We'll say it's a mess. Just envision that. And then she showed this extra one where she takes 20 extra seconds to take the washcloth, wipe the counter, put the cap back on, put the toothpaste in, hang the washcloth. I mean, really, it's only 20 seconds. But do you know what I felt when I watched that? I felt tired. Not because I can't wipe a counter, but because sometimes we don't have the executive functions left, right? So maybe you've spent all day masking. Maybe you've spent all day overcompensating. Maybe you are just like a killer businesswoman or, person managing a lot of family and you don't want to do one more thing. It's funny. It makes me think of my popcorn bowl, actually. Anyone who knows me would probably giggle at this. I'm an avid air pop popcorn lover. Love it. It's like my favorite nighttime snack. I'm really good at putting all the dishes away most of the day. That popcorn bowl, I have just made an executive decision that it is going to live in the sink overnight and it will be cleaned in the morning. Because after my kids go to bed, I don't want to executive function anymore. So it's decided. It is not going to be taken care of. It'll be taken care of in the morning. So I think the thing is when we expect ourselves to take 20 extra seconds, I think that's a very neuronormative way of looking at executive function. It's like, of course, why wouldn't you take the 20 extra seconds? It's only 20 seconds. What if you've crashed? What if you're burnt out? What if you have nothing left? What if your spoons are out of the drawer, right? For spoon theory lovers. So I like the idea of house mapping because it reduces executive functioning demands. So this makes me think of questions that I got around the hamper. I can't tell you how many of you guys commented on, well, isn't that what a hamper's for? For example, in the video, I'm like showing this really cute. By the way, someone asked, it was a threshold basket, but I don't think they sell it anymore at Target. And I found it on some other random website. So you could like do a screen grab and do a Google lens of it. But here's the thing. Sometimes the house map will act as the executive function for us. So you can think of it this way. The system that you come up with should reduce your executive functions. So I got so many comments about the hamper. Like people were kind of calling out that my threshold basket from Target that they no longer sell there was like, isn't that just a hamper? Yes. Here's the thing. we want the map to follow our executive function. So for me, my hamper is tucked away inside my closet behind another door. That's probably going to take me an extra 20 seconds. Remember, I was saying like when you've already been depleted, you're already tired. So I actually use that same basket that I showed in the video. I actually have it on the other side of my dresser normally with blankets and pillows. That's what it's supposed to be for. But I've also just kind of admitted to myself that that's going to be where my after work clothes go sometimes when I just don't want to executive function anymore. So it's not, is this the correct space? But it's, does it make sense to how I move around space? Because less decision making means less mental fatigue. And that's another really awesome thing that house mapping provides. It also does something cool by decreasing transition costs. So one of the hardest parts of ADHD is shifting between activities. And by having predictable landing zones, it makes it more likely that you're going to complete the task. So I'll pull another one from the comments. Mail, the kitchen counter, the island. Okay, we all know what I'm talking about. We all have it. That place where things kind of just get thrown at the end of the day, or maybe when you've come in and you've got the pile of mail in your hand. You could have a place that you think is like the most practical place for the mail. Maybe you even have like a beautiful little, I don't know, hanging basket or something. And you're like, yes, that's where it's going to go. But what if it isn't where you came in? What if it's not near where you take your bag and your shoes off? What if you take your shoes off first, so you put the mail down on top of the washer dryer, and then you forget it's there because you took your shoes off and you walk into the kitchen, and now you have this pile of mail that you're going to forget is there, and you're not going to empty it, or not empty it, but go through it. So make sure, if you're going to be house mapping, that the place you typically are putting it is where the carrier goes or where the thing goes. Now, bonus points, this is just how I roll. I personally, I don't know, I just find like excess paper very annoying. So I will usually, when I walk in with my mail, I literally walk straight over to my trash can. I have one of those ones that's like trash and recycling, and I'll open it and I will do my tear and recycle like right then and there. That doesn't take a lot of executive function for me. What does is the follow-up. So I'll take anything that we have to follow up on and I'll go place it near my husband's Keurig. I don't ever really use it because I drink tea. So I'll put it near the Keurig, kind of in a pile. And it's like, this is the stuff we actually have to get to. I think one of the struggles for ADHDers is, and honestly, just people who are overwhelmed, is just not even opening it. So I want to ask you, even though I was giving you that 20 seconds off from not having to do the extra thing, please do yourself a favor if you're willing and try. Just try it for like a week and see if the 20 seconds to just open it and tear it will help, because ADHD tax is a real thing and too many people end up with late fees or crisis that like don't have to happen. So just throwing that out there. But the kitchen counter, I empathize with this because we have like this big island where literally everything ends up, and especially in the summer. I don't know how many of you have kids who are like home during the summer, but I swear like every project and everything ends up there. So I have, instead of expecting my counter to be clear at the end of the night, I have basically understood that there's just going to be stuff there. So I designated, I think I commented on one of your things. I designated a portion of the counter that's going to serve as like the landing space for the leftover projects or stuff or things or books that we haven't attended to. And there's something about moving it intentionally to the spot. It doesn't take extra work or executive functions. I don't have to find everywhere in the house that the stuff goes, but it leaves the rest of the space clear. I think the same thing could go for dining tables. Who is doing all these art projects on dining tables? Like so many people commented about dining room tables. My first question is, are you eating there? If you're not eating there, I don't know, maybe you treat it as something other than a dining table. Right now, our dining table has a puzzle on it, but admittedly, we have a kitchen table that we eat at more. So I think part of it is like having some compassion for yourself. And just because something's called a dining table doesn't mean that's what you need to do there. But I would encourage you, I'm a huge proponent for dinner together if it's possible. I know that's not always possible. We don't do it all the time, but gosh, I don't know. Sometimes there's no other time of the day to like co-regulate with our kids than at that moment. So if there's a way, like I'm envisioning if you have a dining table and things end up there, what if you pick a chair at the table that no one uses and you put a basket in the chair? And before you're going to eat, one of the jobs of someone in the family is to take the stuff from the table and dump it in the basket. What if? I wonder what would happen. Would it make it more usable? So it's not a matter of I need to use my functioning to get every single thing off this table and put throughout the house. It's all right, let's just admit that we use the table for stuff and make a space for the stuff. And what this also does is actually creates procedural memory. Okay. So eventually these things are going to become more automatic. So like I was saying, if part of setting the table for dinner is taking all the projects and putting them into the basket, it becomes part of setting the table. Okay. So if part of coming in with the mail is going straight to I'm opening, like if any of you are watching, I'm kind of opening the trash. If part of me coming in is I'm holding the mail and I go straight to the trash, ready to tear and like sort, it becomes part of walking in the door. Now, we know habits take time. Please be gentle with yourself. Like, I don't want you to listen to this episode and think, okay, I'm going to house map every single procedure in my house. No. let's not overwhelm yourself and make it feel like, a mission for failure. Pick one map at a time. Maybe it's the counter. Maybe it's the mail. Maybe it's the entryway with the shoes. Maybe it's the laundry. Another really great question that so many of you ask that I think is so common is small spaces. I love this one question. Someone had said, I think they might have, from what she described, I think she might have like a narrow space next to her bed where kind of it's a catch-all. And another thing to remember, if we're having catch-all spaces and it's not part of the house map, you're more likely to lose stuff in those spaces. And so I had recommended, like, what if she got some cute hooks, place them on the wall, and maybe I love in our, we have like a little camper RV. And when we redid it, I got this really cute laundry basket with like a neat little hook, and it's there, and it's almost like its own decor. So, because it's a small space, obviously we don't want like laundry all over the RV when you're trying to squeeze into one with your whole family and dogs and everything. So I had said, like, what if you just go with it? Like, if that's where you're going to put stuff, go with it, but find something that fits that place, but that you can still access things. Like, I do think visibility is important. I know my favorite thing from any of you that know Marie Kondo, my favorite thing that came from, I don't remember if it was her book, I think it was her show that I watched, was folding things. I love how many of you made fun of me during that one video where I was folding things and I was talking about menopause. Okay, I don't fold things beautifully, guys. It's fine. But I did love her card stack way where you fold things kind of, I guess it would be vertically so that you can see it in your drawers. That made the biggest difference in the whole world to me. So things are not folded pretty. I'm like kind of just quickly doing it, but I can see everything. So that's one thing with your house map. Can you see the things that you're going to need to access again? And, a lot of us do this naturally. When you think about, the hook where you put your key, that's a map. You're not putting your key hook in the bathroom. I mean, maybe you are, but you're probably not. You're probably putting it near the door. So you want to make sure that the map is following procedures that naturally happen throughout your day. So another thing is to remember that changing direction and shifting gears can sometimes be tricky for ADHD and for anyone who's feeling stressed or burned out or overwhelmed. So there's this loss of momentum when there's an interruption, right? Like if you were talking, and then someone asks you a question and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh my gosh, what in the world was I talking about? So when things have a home, it's so much easier to know they have a home than have to search for them. Now, the home might not make sense to anyone else, and that's okay, as long as it's following the map of where you move throughout your space. Because at the end of the day, what we want is less chaos, okay? And this, I think it's so important to remember what I call the family nervous system. When you live with any form of neurodiversity, autism, ADHD, you're overcoming trauma, maybe you've had a medical trauma, maybe you're postpartum, maybe you're menopausal, everything is input. Everything around us is input. So while it might just feel like clutter in some ways, it's input. Okay. So I think sometimes when we look at our kids, for example, if they're feeling more dysregulated, I sometimes will look in the environment. Like, is the environment saturated in a way where they're having to process a lot, especially if they need to find a lot? One of the followers had said this really great idea where she like designated a homework spot for her kids. I love that. And she encouraged them to like they could go help each other in the homework spot and work together. It's so sweet. And I thought about it, made me reflect like, yeah, our island is a homework spot, but it wouldn't be able to be a homework spot if I didn't, remember, move everything to one half when it wasn't being used. So we want to make sure that over time, environments have some predictability to reduce background stress. Now, almost every other comment mentioned something about husbands, kids. The one lamp I put there, people were saying, I'm going to have to put 70 lamps. Okay, I get it. This is hard, especially if this is something that you're not already doing, especially if you don't have, a partner who's going to support you in this, especially if your kids have never, been accustomed to this. I encourage you, hey, share the episode maybe, introduce the idea to your family, ask them if they'd be hopefully willing to just give it a try, because the goal here is to have everyone in the house pitching in. I'm a strong proponent for accommodations though, okay? So I have fought the battle of getting the dishes off the counter into the dishwasher far too long, and I have just had to kind of admit that for some reason, my husband forgets that the dishwasher is underneath the counter sometimes. He doesn't always do it, but sometimes. So I'm better at seeing that. I will put them in there. But I also have made it very clear and been very communicative about how when things are not put away, when they're not like taken care of or they don't have a home, it does feel more stressful and more chaotic. So we've had very frank conversations about like, what do I need from you? What do you need from me? So this is harder if you don't have a partner who's willing to support you or roommates who are on board or kids who are on board. So, gosh, I feel for you. And, I'd be happy to answer specific questions if some come up, like, drop them in the comments on the episode. But sometimes it's a matter of family work, family counseling, vulnerability, sharing how much this is a need for you. I love Dear Man from DBT, like describe, express, assert, reinforce what you need. Because when you start getting these little wins, it really does reduce the stress on the family nervous system, and it creates a just more calm and peaceful space in general. I know some individuals find it really helpful to like have a regular cleaner that comes in or something like that. That's not financially feasible for everyone, but there is nothing wrong with that if that's something that helps support you. Just overall, I think what this video showed me is how much we need this, how much we all need to follow our natural rhythm and make sure that the environment follows that. So let me just think real quick before I wrap up this episode about the comments that I got. And I know people had asked about entryways, shoes, mail, counters, laundry, hamper, overpopulating your home with lamps. One other thing that didn't come up that I think is not commonly discussed are cars. Cars can get really chaotic, and actually it's a little bit of it's a little dangerous to have our cars full of things. So when we're talking about coupling behavior with action, I love everyone grab something. It's actually I'm a broken record at this point. When my family gets out of the car, it's always everyone grabs something. It's become kind of a tradition. It's become part of getting out of the car. So if there's something in your life that you think could be a little chip off the block, I encourage you to do it. Like I said to this one follower who had mentioned they have an entire room that needs to be a container. That's not uncommon. I work with a lot of creative people. How many of you out there have a craft room that is an explosion of things? It's funny, in my therapy room, I will say my art cabinet is definitely the most explosive place, but there's some organization to it. So I love the bag a day method, where I basically encourage my clients to get just a little grocery bag, not a big one, not like a trash bag, just a bag a day for a period of time. You could pick, like a week, 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever, and a bag a day until you get to your goal. Each bag is going to be either you throw out, you donate, or you move somewhere else. Just one single bag. Now, yes, one bag might turn into 10 bags. You might just go into an ADHD hyperdrive and completely clean everything out. Cool. Like, go with that. I just hope you don't get too burned out. But I love the idea of chipping off a little bit at a time, and kind of makes me think of my garden out back, where almost to the date every year I would plant all these things. I'm so excited. And then we would hit this certain spot, spring to summer in North Carolina, where just the weeds go crazy. And then I just have total hopelessness and just abandon the whole thing and everything dies. This year I have a client who's gotten really into gardening, and she inspired me. Thank you. You know who you are. And so I made a goal that 2 to 3 times a week I would go out and just pick a handful of weeds. That's it. Just a handful. I don't make myself do more. I don't make myself do less. And you know what? I'm actually keeping up with it pretty good. And it's not perfect. That's okay. But man, it feels good to be just chipping a little bit off and doing a little bit at a time. So I just wanted to really remind you all that, while this is really out of the norm for some people, or some of you are walking away going, awesome, I have a name for something I've been doing the whole time. Just remember that having the intention to move towards mapping your house in a way that works for you and your family's nervous system is a beautiful way to care for yourself, an amazing way to take the load off of you. And in the end, even if it feels like extra work in the beginning, you're going to improve your executive functioning. So thank you to all of you who have been part of this really engaging conversation online, who have been asking great questions. Can't wait to hear what you think about some of these questions and how you felt about the psychology of house mapping and why it's so helpful. So for all of you out there who are going to go house map, remember, your house may be wired differently, but it is worthy always. Be well, everyone.